Please forgive me while I get this all worked out. So earlier today, I posted in here about how this morning was hard, but that some of the things that I discovered while dealing with this hard morning was kind of exciting. So that was my silver lining. So I wanted to share with you guys some non-traditional coping strategies that I have found that have been helpful for kids who are exploders. Raise your hand if your kid is an exploder, because I have a kid who melts down in an explosive way, and it can be really hard because we go to occupational therapy and social work, and they say things like, oh, zones of regulation, what color are you? What zone are you in? And when you have a kid who is completely explosive when they're melting down, asking them to put a color to their feelings is kind of irrational when they're in that red zone. So this morning was really hard for us, and I knew it was coming because Mondays are traditionally really difficult, but this morning was really hard. Last night, he went to bed in a really good mood. He is the sweetest kid ever, and so he was full of hugs and I love yous. He was gone for the weekend, so he was glad to be home. But this morning, he was just a different kid, and I could see it when he woke up in his demeanor. He stayed in bed a little longer than he typically does. He kind of talked back, which isn't something he typically does. It kind of started with breakfast, which can be a trigger for us because he is picky about what he eats for breakfast. He's not a breakfast kind of kid. He kept telling me, oh, we have no good food. I don't like anything that you have to eat, which is super common for all of our kids, but it is a traditionally hard thing for us in the morning to find him something that he will eat. So I offered him a few of his favorite things, and he said he wanted pizza, and the clock is ticking, and it was way past time for us to leave for school without a rush. So I agreed to pizza because I figured pizza is better than an empty stomach, right? So I heated up a few slices, and I handed them to him, and he wandered into our laundry room, which is quite a large laundry room, but to eat alone so that he wasn't bothering everybody else or they weren't bothering him. So about 5 minutes later, I went in there to check on him, and I wanted to just, make sure that we were still on the path to getting to school on time. And I found uneaten pizza when I got in there. So the conversation kind of went something like, hey, bud, we should probably leave in 3 minutes ago. So do you want to bring that pizza with us? Or can I pack your backpack and shoes for you while you eat? Because choices are important. And his response was just to explode. So I've seen this kind of scenario play out, and I've learned that pushing him to do the shoes and the backpack and that whole getting ready routine, eating breakfast, all of that, pushing him only is going to lead to a more explosive child. So typically we work together to get things moving if I can see that he's having a hard time. And then we work on those independent skill building tasks, like getting ready on days where he's in a more positive place. But in those moments where he explodes, though, he isn't in control. He's in the red zone, and so we have to prioritize what needs to happen in the moment so we can move forward. If you were here, you would hear me frequently saying to him, what do you need right now so we can move forward? I specifically say that same thing over and over again so that he can tell me what he needs instead of me telling him what I think he needs, which is really helpful. So today, what he needed was to learn at home instead of going in person. He's only going 2 days a week now, and he needed the camera to be off. So we reached out to the school. We explained to them he was having a hard morning. His team is really receptive to what he needs because Mason is able to ask for what he needs most. But we eventually worked everything out. But before we could even get to that place where he was going to school and doing Zoom school, I watched him calm himself down, and it dawned on me that he freaking calmed himself down using his own set of strategies that I didn't offer him. Many of them are strategies that I probably have seen him do before, and I never considered them calming strategies. So I wanted to share with you guys, with his permission, of course, But keep in mind that I'm not an occupational therapist. I'm just a mom that's sharing things that have been successful for us. And I've seen some of these things successful with the families that I work with too. So hopefully they're going to help somebody else. So the first thing is ripping up paper. This is something that our kid has done for years, but it's really good for kids who explode in kind of destructive ways. Regular paper, like leftover from the mail, is fine. I always try and find him paper that is okay for him to destroy, that I don't care. But what I found is that like light cardboard or cardstock works best. Think like cereal boxes or macaroni and cheese boxes. You know, it's like a little thinner than, you know, regular cardboard, but it's thick enough that it feels more difficult to rip than a regular piece of paper. It totally makes a mess, and it's easily cleaned up, so I don't care, but it provides that destructive outlet that some of our kids seek. Number 2 is punching pillows on a moving surface. You know, think about like punching a punching bag, but when you're putting yourself on a moving surface, like a swing or a rolling chair or the bed, if it's a little wiggly, one, we want to make sure that our kids are being safe. But 2, this gives them the benefit of that vestibular output on the moving surface and the input of punching a pillow. So this is great for kids who seek like intense sensory experiences, and that is really common for kids who explode. Number 3 is hanging upside down. This is another vestibular experience that help our children calm down and refocuses their energy. Hanging off the couch, hanging off the monkey bars, hanging off the side of the bed. Again, make sure that they're safe. But this can be a powerful vestibular input activity because it's a unique experience and it provides a possible distraction from that triggering incident because everything looks different upside down. Number 4 is pushing against the wall. So this is something that our OT recommended wall push-ups for years, and never in a million years could I get my kid to do wall push-ups like they were recommending me. However, if I asked him to sit between the wall and the couch and push with his feet as hard as he could, he would do that all day long. Like, that is his thing. He likes that feeling. Now that we've developed that strategy, I find him like looking for closed spaces like that or small spaces that he can push from. Number 5 is deep pressure. We all know weighted blankets or vests are options, but if your exploding kid is anything like mine, he has to want the type of help you're offering him. So those things were only helpful for us if he was in the right space. Like sometimes before bed when he needed to calm down, those are things that were helpful then. But when he was in the red zone, me offering those types of supports only increased the explosion. Instead, he would climb between, this sounds so crazy, right? But so instead of that deep pressure from the weighted blanket, he would climb between the mattress and the box spring and like wedge himself in there half in, half out and do some deep breathing. I did not suggest this to him. This is something he figured out on his own. It's absolutely non-traditional, but it worked for him. Those deep pressure activities, they activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And that comes along, it like activates that system, which helps calm your child. And at the same time, your brain is releasing dopamine and serotonin, leaving your child with more of those feel good feelings than those feel bad feelings. So maybe for you, it's not a mattress and it's a big hug, or it's your dog laying on top of that. It doesn't really matter what that deep pressure is. So get creative with how you're offering it. Because I bet you'd be finding things that your OT has never suggested. Like the OT would never suggest to climb in between the mattress, right? 1, we want to be safe, but 2, we want to make sure that we're giving them those things that they need, those sensory experiences that can help calm them, but just in a creative way. So I do want to say, though, that given at any given time, had I offered up some of these techniques, my son probably, on any given day, would have refused to use them. It has taken us years to find a way that he can help himself. But I often see some of those techniques and those tools and those strategies that we've offered him, that we've taught him across the years, he has modified in ways that work for him. So tomorrow, none of these things might work, right? Like every day our kids need different things and they respond to different things, but today was a win. And so even though it was hard, I've had to learn to be flexible with my expectations of him and looking for those creative solutions to tough problems. And I really, really pick and choose my battles like I did this morning when it came to going to school. He was not in a place that he could have gone into school, one, not been embarrassed because he was crying, and two, he wasn't available to learn. Like he wasn't in a good place for that. We probably could have rallied and got him to school a little bit later, but I had other kids remote learning and it was hard for me to get him there without interrupting everybody else's schedule. So we pick and chose our battles this morning, and I think it worked out well. But sometimes I still have no idea how I'm going to help in a situation. But then other times, like today, I see that silver lining and I see that hard work that we're putting in. I see you guys putting in all of that hard work too. So this weekend, one of my friend's sons had his first haircut in a public place, and I celebrated with her. She sent me a picture. I was so excited for her, and I totally looked back and I remembered that day for us. I remember my kid punching the hairdresser in the face and standing there humiliated. That was a time where I didn't really know what was going on with my child, and so it was extra embarrassing, but it made me realize how far we've come and that all of our kids are figuring things out at different rates. At different speeds, and it's really hard, but I want to remind you all to keep pushing, because our kids, even though things are hard for them, their future is just as bright as all the other kids that you're seeing in your news feed and you're seeing at school, and that our kids are doing things at different rates, but that doesn't mean that they're not going places. So that is it for today, and I will talk to you guys soon.